This is to get the most out of ShareFile features. This is a great webinar series that we started a while ago, which we try to key in on some of the most sought after features within ShareFile, some tips and tricks as we kind of go through today. I am one of your hosts. My name is John. I am a principal customer success engineer with ShareFile. I am brought in here today with also Evan as our host. Evan.
Thanks, John. Hey, everybody. I'm Evan Georges. I wear a couple hats. I support our customers like John, with adoption and success as a customer success engineer, but also people who are looking to purchase ShareFile for the first time, going through the technical validation, sales engineering process.
So first things first, just our agenda today. Agenda, we're going to hit on a couple different things that we feel are valuable in terms of ShareFile that you should be aware of. The first thing, we're going to start a little basic, more on the basis of pretty much all of our different licensing, different columns that we have. We do have, again, 3 different licensing models: our standard, advanced, and premium. Most of what you'll see in the beginning of the presentation should adhere to most of the licensing models. So you should be aware that most of this is something you can follow in your own ShareFile instance. So branding, some secure file sharing, just to reach out and just hit on some of the key points there. We want to hit on co-editing because co-editing is something awesome that we're continually improving with ShareFile, with working with Microsoft apps like Office and Excel. And then Evan's going to take it away on the ShareFile apps and tools, just kind of show some tips and tricks, if you will, or some more of the common things that you should be aware of with our app integrations and some of our tools that are available. And then we will get into more of the premium offering within ShareFile, which includes our project section, some of our AI and automation. But let's go ahead and jump into the demo. I don't want to waste any more time with slides. And of course, I'm already ahead of everybody here. I'm already logged into the instance itself that we're going to demonstrate today. Now, the first thing we want to hit on is a bit of branding. I know some of you here may be new to ShareFile, or you may be existing here and you're working for an organization. And a lot of the times we want to first, when we, of course, are customer success engineers, kind of work with you, the one thing we always bring up is branding. Branding with any kind of platform, especially cloud applications, super essential because a lot of that goes into how you customize the experience with your clients. A couple things that I would say is it helps familiarize your clients in working with you, and they trust it a lot more when it is branded versus when it's not branded. They might feel a little skeptical when they get a share link from you, or if they're starting to create a client account within your ShareFile account. Having your logo in there, your color scheme makes it a part of what you're working towards in terms of the services that you're providing to your clients and also employees. It just provides a better way of just understanding that, hey, this is part of your organization. It gives more trust, some more security to whoever's working with you. So let's dive right into it. Now, branding is an administrative function. So you may not have this capability on your end, if depending on what user permissions you have. But take away from this, if your site isn't branded or your account isn't branded yet, this is something to leverage and reach out to your administrators about so that they can actually apply it. So if you go under settings and admin settings, there's a company account info. And then under that, you have edit company branding. Now, first off, with this page, it is very straightforward in terms of basic options in terms of setting up branding. I would avoid this because I do like to jump right into the advanced appearance options. The reason for that is that you could see we categorize these different account appearances with drop downs, and it does help lend way of which appearance you are changing within ShareFile. So for instance, browser options, these have to do with the browser side of things. So when people are accessing it from a browser, like say Chrome, like I'm in here now, you will see at the top here, I have a page title. So you can always change that to say your organization if you want. And then your favorite icon is the icon if you see off to the left. Also, if they bookmark that site, that favorite icon will also show. So again, definitely bring in that, if you will, in terms of helping customize that, make it a little easier for the client or the employee to see what they're accessing in what tab. As you probably know, people have tons of tabs open, and if they have an icon that they're familiar with, they should be able to easily navigate through. As we're going through branding, always take a look at the actual icons with the question mark in them. These should tell you a little bit of what they do and what they are. Some of them do have also size of the actual image that you're posting. Some of those limitations will be noted there. If it does give you an error, they are pretty descriptive. So if, say, for instance, your favorite icon was too big or too high res for some reason, it will notate at the top there what resolution or pixel size that it needs to be. So moving ahead, you do have header options. So header options are the thing that we actually see up here, this section over here. So if you want to add your logo at the top left, your background color, and also if you had a background image you wanted to put in place, you can add that in there as well. And then finally, the text information, such as these labels on the right here, you could change that text color. Again, try to make this as coherent and cohesive, I should say, to your actual organization's color scheme. Also, a cool thing here is that you can simply put in your color code. So if you do already have your color codes branded within your organization, you can ask your marketing team for those color codes, and you can simply put those in there and save it. Much easier than, say, clicking one here and again finding, of course, the exact hex code that you want to help match with the organization. Then you have the page accent colors. These are things that you'll see throughout that are accented for little icons and so forth. Again, you'll see the icon information there in terms of changing that color. And then most important, you have your login page. You didn't see my login page, but I had something customized for ShareFile as a background color. I'm sorry, image. And I can actually put that in there. So again, that would probably be your logo or any kind of marketing material that your clients are familiar with. And then you can also set a background color and a logo background color. So if the logo doesn't take up the whole screen, it will actually have a little bit of empty space, and you can fill that in with the color code that you have here. And again, also you have a logo. So above your login credentials, you have your logo set there in addition to the background image. So it makes like a nice in between where you have either something that you like to market out as your background and then your logo on the forefront where they log into. And then finally, a lot of people tend to ignore this or aren't sure of what this is, but the email option is very particular. So when people are getting notifications from you, say like you're adding them, you're activating their account to add them to your account, they'll get a notification of your email through ShareFile. Make sure you customize this because when they, again, they do get that share link or they get that activation to create their account in your ShareFile account there, they will see your logo. And if you want to put any kind of header or text information, that's super important. A lot of clients, they like to put in either just a welcome message or just to give insight of who they are, or I have people who put the footer text information where they put like a simple EULA or terms and conditions. So that's very unique there in that retrospect. One thing I did want to point out, and I did just mention that, is a terms and conditions. That is something that not a lot of clients are aware of because it isn't something you can actually configure right off the bat within your interface. That is something that your customer success engineer, like Evan and I, can help you set that up on your account with. And you may have seen that before because if you go under your security section, your login and security policy, and if you scroll down, you'll see your terms and conditions. As you can see, again, there's nothing you could really fill out here on your own. You can open a support ticket with our support team. I could show that out later. But if you do have contact with your customer success engineer, they can also help you set up your terms and conditions. And this is a simple pop-up. So when clients, employees alike log in, they'll actually get that pop-up and you can actually display a terms and conditions and they have to agree to that terms and conditions once they log in. So again, another customization that you can add to the branding part of it, because I do feel terms and conditions is very viable when we're dealing with data and collaboration in general. So again, just a tidbit there for you. Again, if you don't know who your customer success engineer is, we're going to go through that at the end of the day here. But you can also go and open up a support ticket. That will take us to our support page, and you could start a chat with support and indicate what you want to actually display on your terms and conditions, and they could set that up for you as well. All right, so enough of the branding. Hope you learned a little bit about that. Hope you guys who haven't actually branded anything do take advantage of that, because again, I do feel it's very important to make your ShareFile account something of your own and that it's easily recognizable. Let's get a little bit into file sharing. Now, file sharing in general, you may think that's rudimentary here. Everyone kind of knows how to share something, but I wanted to kind of key in on a couple special parts about when you share something. Let's talk about just a couple ways of sharing and when we're talking about sharing. Now, you do have ad hoc sharing, which ad hoc is basically, hey, I need to send something to Evan. It's a one-off document I need to send him. Maybe I don't need to grant him an account or a client account within my instance, but it's something for him to be able to access quickly. You do have a shortcut here, which then you can either drag and drop or choose files that are already in ShareFile to share out to Evan. You also can go into your various different shared folders, your personal folders, to share something out. And to do that, you can simply click into a folder. Actually, let me take a tax prep that we've been working on. Since it is tax season, I can simply come in my tax prep client here that I'm working with, and I can click on the file or files, or even a folder of all the files, and share that out from here as well. But you also have the ability to grant people or clients, employees alike, access to the folder which that data resides in. So think of, again, the ad hoc sharing where I'm just clicking that shortcut from the dashboard as just a one-off. I'm also able to go into my folders and click on the files that I already have existing in ShareFile and kick off a share from there as well. But if I need something a little bit more permanent where the client needs to work with me and they need to upload or download data in a way of the folder, that's where the people section comes into play. And then I can come in here and I could start adding somebody like Evan here
Now,
to
John,
the
I think it's important to mention too the distribution group potential. If you want to consolidate users into specific groups, that you do have the potential within ShareFile to set up distribution groups as well to add to folders.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's really important because if say for instance, Evan isn't an accounting department per se, and Evan, he could do a lot of the work in the folder if he needs to access certain things, but obviously it could be that Evan's on PTO, or Evan has other people that need to access that information. That's where the distribution groups come into play. So we're adding somebody to a folder, you will see that distribution group list, and you could start typing it out like I typed out Evan's name, but it might be easier to navigate to that distribution group and find the distribution group that you're looking for. The one thing as a point of reference, though, anyone that's in that distribution group would adhere to the folder permissions that you're giving them. So just be cautious of that, because it could be that Evan's already in the list here. And as you can see, he is in this folder. So if I add him in that distribution group as well, it's not going to yell at me. It's just going to take the most restrictive in terms of access to that folder, again, if he's already in that distribution group. And I think that's a really good call out, Evan. For those on the line that aren't aware that we have distribution groups, if you have access to managing employees, and you should also have access then to distribution groups, you go to the distribution group here, you can create a new group. Just a tidbit here is at the bottom. You will be able to share this amongst other admins, or other admins can see your distribution group. If you want to make it only private to you, you say no, put in the actual group name. And then from here, you could start adding users directly, such as Evan that I have here. So again, distribution groups can go a long way in terms of securing information in a more say, grouped way, a more lenient way, instead of individually taking control of people that you need to add to it. If it's just in a whole accounting department that I need to add to that folder, it's much easier to maintain those permissions from there. All right, so a bit about file sharing that I wanted to share with you is when we're coming in here and we are sharing something, a couple things need to stand out here. Oh, actually, I have that one actually logged out. We're actually going to come back to that one in a minute. When I click share, that's going to create a share link for me. A couple ways to do this is, again, I can simply create a link if I wanted to, and I can simply share that out. Or I can send to specific people that will actually send an email out. But say, for instance, I generate that link and I want to go into some of those security settings. So I'm going to send this out to Evan. And with Evan, I just want him to be able to download that actual item because I want him to be able to edit that, or he needs to take that to some other department to work on. And then also you have who can access this. As you could see, we have various different means of who can access it in terms of if they need to sign in to their account first, or it can be anonymous where it doesn't require them to add a client or have them activate a client account or an employee account, if you will. And as you can see, the anyone options has an anonymous option where it doesn't require any information. We do have an anonymous option that allows you to set it up so that it will require them to put in their name in an email into there. So if we do need to look at any logging, at least we can see some auditing done with that share if in case we're not requiring them to log in. So be choosy with that. And I'm going to show you also how to edit this kind of list in a minute here. And one thing I did want to point out is these two options down below here kind of get ignored. The latest version of the file is very important. That is one by default because we do have something called versioning within ShareFile. So I can be working on a file, say this engagement letter PDF, and say Evan has that access to that folder and he uploaded the same file name to there. It will actually save it as a version of the file. So what this is saying is when I click on that file to share it, I'm always using the latest um, version of that file that was edited. So just be cautious of that because if there was a particular version you wanted to share out, you can do that. But this is always on by default. That's typically the way you're going to want to share out. You do have add a watermark option here as well. This is something that is very particular. So if I want to watermark this for Evan so that I have an overlay on that document, I can choose to add a watermark. And when we talk about editing a watermark, I'm just going to back up a little bit here. Again, if you're an administrator, you may or may not have these settings, or you may or may not see these settings. But under your actual admin settings, advanced preferences, and if you go down to file settings and you scroll down, you'll see the watermark section. So you can customize this in terms of how the watermark looks. So you can, as you can see, add some information there. We can add a first name and last name on there. So again, when we do share that out, Evan would be able to see that it's overlaid with that information of my first name, last name, and my email address. So if somebody is kind of over the shoulder taking a snapshot, you are protected through that as well. So for instance, let's just take that very quickly and show you how that works. So again, I have that watermark. And when I share that link and I'm able to view it, that should show the watermark here and also should show it as a when you do download it. So just to be aware of those things. Again, watermarking is just one of those things that we kind of take for granted. Not a lot of people see it because it isn't on by default. So it's something that you just want to be aware of. If you see, and as you can see, there is my information there with my email, do not distribute. I didn't save those other settings with my name, first name and last name, but you saw the ones that I have on here already. So again, a very easy way to increase that security, having something on there. And again, that should appear if you download that document as well. So again, Evan is secured even more if that, say for instance, somebody was looking over their shoulder, take a snapshot, or for some reason it got distributed outside of ShareFile, that watermark will still be contained within the file. All right, so let's skip to one thing here. And as you remember, just to recap over here, if I'm going in the edit options and you see who can access this link, let me show you how you can edit that. Again, if you're an administrator, you can come in the admin settings, again, under advanced preferences and under file settings. You do have your share settings and your request settings. Remember, we can create a request link as well, aside from a share link if we need somebody to upload something to us. But as you can see, I can come in here, and if I want to be as secure as possible, I can take out the anonymous options. So only these two options a user will actually see when they're setting up a share. This is the most secure way, because then that requires that person to have a ShareFile account already to log in with before they can access that file that you're sharing with them. So just be aware, if you are sharing something with them, a link isn't going to grant them access if they don't already have a client account. You could do that under the people and under browse client section if you wanted to, and add a client beforehand so they can activate their account. Or if I'm sharing out a document and I choose the send to specific people, that is the email option. I could just start typing in Evan's name, and obviously he's still already in here. I can choose since he's in here already, but if he's not in my ShareFile account already, I can just type his email address in and share this share this document with him. And before he can open that, it will activate him as a client within the ShareFile instance there, so that he can access that share. And as you could see, when I chose the security settings, I allowed him to download it. So then that will grant him the download access once he's done the activating of his account and accessing that link directly. So that's just one tidbit there, when we're talking about when we're forcing somebody to log in first before they can add to share, either create the client account ahead of time or use the send to specific people or the email option to send that document out, because then that can kick off an automatic activation of the account for them to sign up as a client. All right, let me finish up my last point of co-editing. So as you can see, I already have a co-editing session open here, but co-editing is a really essential part of ShareFile, because if I'm working on a document, a Word document here, and say, for instance, I have my associate, Evan, that I'm working with, and say we need to work on the same document, I can click on Edit, and that will take me into an edit session. And I can go ahead and do my edits as I will on my own. But if I actually shared this link out, and if I wanted to, I can say I forgot to send this to Evan ahead of time. I can create a share from here. And again, as you can see, he has edit options. If you don't see that, be sure what you allow these people to do is the edit option there. So if they want to co-edit, you need to be sure that is checked and sent over to Evan. I sent this ahead of time, but as you can see now, Evan got that link and Evan is in the same documents, and he's already making comments within the actual documents. And on his side, he'll also see my cursor like I see his. And yeah, and you can, of course, roll your mouse over that. Evan's moving pretty quickly there, but you can put your cursor over there and see that it's Evan Georges that are making edits. And again, I can start making those edits as well. I can just make small edits, and that will actually save it back to the original file that you're out. Remember, we do have versioning. I made a point of that earlier when we are sharing, right? You can make additional versions as you go through these edits, so that you are rest assured that that version of the file is saved back to ShareFile. But again, very easy way of co-editing. And of course, again, I can answer back to him to showcase that I can edit as well. And again, he'll see the same thing on his side. Rightfully so, if I didn't want to edit this within the web UI, I can click on Open in Desktop App. This will give you some instructions first to set this up within Word or Office, however you're accessing it, or I should say Excel or PowerPoint. I can click on Open in Word, and that will open up my Word session. And for the first time, again, just be sure you do follow those instructions. because once you do open it up, you can tell it to continue editing online, if you will, or I could close the document. If it didn't open up in your Word app locally, you can always choose try again. It will tell it to open up. I believe that is the most important thing I wanted to share today on my side. So again, check out co-editing. I think co-editing is a great tool to use. You don't have to leave what you're doing in ShareFile. You could do it right through the web UI. You can leverage the desktop application if you wanted to. So you have various ways of editing it while I'm with Evan and working on that same doc. As a tidbit there as well, for the versioning side, as I mentioned before, if you do have versions on the file, you can always see this little blue icon on the right. And if you click on it, it will showcase all the different versions that have been edited with this. As you can see, Evan was in there before making edits, and it saved a version for him. So you can always download those different versions if you need to edit the one version, or maybe it was a mistake that you made on one version. You can always download that and re-upload that as the main version if you wanted to. So that's really important. And it could be that, hey, these were maybe mistakes. I can delete those versions and that will take them out. Oh, and by the way, the file is checked out. That is one thing, is you also see this icon, the checkout icon. This will automatically check out the file if we're in the co-edit and we open it up in Word. So just be aware of that. Others couldn't edit that. It's only Evan and I that are in it because I shared it to them. But that's always a key thing. You can always right click, and let me choose. Don't think we can actually see it from there. Let me actually go into one of these. I can probably see it. You will see, I can't show you on the ones on the bottom, screen cuts it off, but you will see a checkout option here if you want to manually check that out. And again, that would prevent people from editing that file if you were editing it or coding it with, say, Evan, that I'm doing now. I'm going to pass it over to you for finishing this up.
I'm going to talk about ShareFile apps and tools. Then we'll discuss beyond folders, beyond access controls and file sharing. So what's some of the other logic of a document and its workflow cycle, and then we'll touch on some of the advanced security and automation features that we're starting to roll out with as we're improving our architecture. So leveraging artificial intelligence, what's ShareFile going to do with that? We definitely have a big uh, you know plan ahead with our roadmap, but there are 3 components that we've already added into the product, so we'll discuss that as well. So first thing, tools available with ShareFile. Obviously, ShareFile is a collaboration type file management platform. So you could be at your desk, at your computer like we are, working out of your email, working out of your file drive on your machine, working remotely, working on the go. So there's a lot of options on how a licensed user can access and interact with content through ShareFile. But as well that clients can interact with content as well. So the first thing that we want to talk of is obviously the web application, ShareFile being a website, being a SaaS application. The main administrative console, the experience, everything is managed through your account of sharefile.com and your accompanying subdomain. But there are some other options, specific to the web application. This is that full ShareFile feature set, and that's where we'll be looking at for most of the demo. You'll also notice that if you are an administrator within the web experience, admin settings, advanced preferences, we have enable ShareFile tools. Now, by turning this feature on, it does actually show apps for anyone that's logged into the web application that's a licensed user. So clicking there will show me exposed apps that my organization has provided that I can, download or connect through ShareFile. Granted, this is obviously just directing us to a download link from our services. So we have the ability to push out these behind the scenes. We'll talk about some of these applications and how they can be rolled out. Either way, as an administrator, you can pick and choose what will be available. So we'll talk about these in detail. I don't need to talk too heavily about external connections. A lot of times people do look at ShareFile as a replacement for FTP, but ShareFile is compatible with FTP clients. So we support FTPS, but not SFTP. just to keep in mind. So we are not a client for FTP. We are more as like a server. So we're not doing like a direct integration in that sense, but you can integrate and pull files over through that manner. So looking through the apps that we have available here, desktop apps, Outlook plugin. So the first one I want to touch on are desktop applications. So we've already talked about through John's portion of being able to open a file through the desktop app. If I'm somebody who needs to sync files in real time, or I need to access them on my computer, teams that are managing larger files, or someone that needs things like offline access. So I don't know, it could be like a design team or someone that's using a desktop app, someone that's typically, I don't need to open a website. I log in, I have my drives locally, but I need that now to sync behind the scenes into ShareFile. So the ShareFile for Windows or ShareFile for Mac can be installed behind the scenes, or it can be installed locally. It authenticates into ShareFile as a licensed user. It connects you to your files and folders. So just like I have here, I have drives that are mounted or mapped. Your IT team can mount specific drives or folders. So this works really well in virtual environments as well, because it's acting basically as a virtual drive. And so what it allows me to do is have access to all these files that are stored in ShareFile, but interact with them locally as I just open this file. And just like we were seeing in the web application, any changes or updates I make, as we can see, it's saved back to this location, which in that sense is just this drive. So this is syncing back to ShareFile. So the desktop application is something for people that are, again, not working out of a website. I just need to launch a document. I need to hit file open, file save, or I need to open something directly from here. A great thing with ShareFile is not only do we provide our own storage, ShareFile managed storage, but you can also connect people to network shares that you might have published internally, other personal cloud outside of ShareFile Box, Dropbox, Google Drive, where they're authenticating now through ShareFile and pointing to those sources as well. So the desktop application, really cool. Definitely check it out if you're not leveraging it. That's something I always talk about with customers. The other one, and this is probably one of the more popular ones, is the Outlook plugin, Outlook add-in, depending on your connection with Microsoft and managing Microsoft for your organization. Obviously, a lot of people are using email to collaborate with third parties. So we do have a plugin also for Gmail that can be added, but the Outlook plugin, you can configure some specific settings here. Now, something to note, I'll just open up an Outlook email here. Again, we do have a plugin for Gmail as well, but I'm using the desktop version of Outlook. In the old Outlook, in the old days, COM add-ins were the way. That's how the ShareFile Outlook plugin was created, thrived, and still exists. But the future with Microsoft, the future for Outlook is that that format will no longer be supported. So adding Outlook as an add-in through Microsoft 365 is the future. And so for ShareFile, we've also followed that. So I have on my Outlook, I'm composing an email. Again, ShareFile's following me here. I can send, share, request files. I can put settings if someone's dragging a file into email that it will auto convert. But you'll see that the plugin, I have the plugin here, but also for newer Outlook, we have what's called the add-in. So both of these options are available depending on how your end users are accessing Outlook. As you can see, there are similar settings where I can encrypt the body of the message. So we can use ShareFile as an encrypted messaging platform. We can send and request files. They're both interacting the same. So whether you guys are leveraging this tool, it is good to start thinking if we are using a plugin, there's going to need to be some logical transition to get us over to newer Outlook. It'll be a pretty simple transition on our side with the add-in. Again, just adding users to it, but the functionality, the capabilities will still be there. So it still supports, the ability to share large files, add expiration dates, everything that we see. If I go into send files here through Outlook, I'm using the add-in version. So this is like if you're on the new Outlook. As we can see, it's similar to the web app experience where I can edit the settings of access controls. In this case, I have it forced that require it to log in. So me as a user can't change that. So these are all settings that we saw as John was going through, some of the link settings. Do I want to drop in my own files and attach it? and it basically will just add a link to the email. That secure link is then what directs the user to ShareFile. So great feature to look at the plugin. You can control and configure some of the settings as an admin for the plugin as well. If you have questions about the transition, reach out to your customer success engineer. I guess a good plug there too, when you are logged into the web app, if you just click on this icon, you should be able to see as an admin if it is available to you to contact your customer success engineer. So in this case, on this demo account, John is our lovely person, and it actually allows us to connect, fill out a form, and have them reach out to you. So if you guys have any questions about any of these types of transitions as well, let us know. Now, other things that we do support are mobile apps. So on the move, on the go, we need to access files. I need to pull up a contract during a meeting, edit, I need to send it to a client. Mobile apps are available within the App Store as well for Google and Android. And then we also have our API. So there are other ways that you can connect with ShareFile. But that was just an important thing for just understanding who's using ShareFile, who are we provisioning these licenses out to, and what are the means of them accessing? Because the last thing we want is for someone to have friction in their day-to-day workflow. I think especially when files are involved, there's a lot to consider. You know, we're collecting data from clients, we're generating documents, we're organizing documents, we're collaborating internally, as we saw with co-editing, getting approvals. We need to reach out externally. We need to be able to talk with our clients. Maybe there's some sort of tasks that are involved with not just putting a file in there, but what's happening behind the scenes. You know, so there's a lot that's going on that, you know, within just a folder is not really encompassing of what ShareFile can provide. ShareFile has been great in checking the boxes for organizing data, you know, allowing you to have a secure access control location, you know, industry leading from a security standpoint in that sense as well, having retention, so on and so forth. You know, the data retention is there, but it is missing the capability of, you know, the communication, requesting specific information, you know, what are these things that we have to do over and over again, these repeatable items. And so outside of, you know, talking through what John went over, we're going to look at, again, this is more of a premium edition feature. This is a part of ShareFile's, I guess, direction with our architecture. So we are, you know, going through a good revamp of our capabilities, continuing with the strong suits of what we've always had with ShareFile, but also adapting into more of this document workflow cycle. So we're going to look into the projects feature of ShareFile, which will give us a more structured approach to those added on components, more than just, hey, let's get a folder, let's do a one-off, you know, kind of link to generate to share or request a file from somebody. So more of a centralized workspace. And so it's going to be comprised of a couple components. So if I click into projects here, we can see that this is separate from folders and folder locations. But a project, kind of a similar concept in the sense that it's, you know, this is that root level now. So at the root level here within a project, there's going to be document request lists. Now this is collecting files, data from clients or team members with clear instructions and deadlines. Pretty simple and straightforward. You may have repeatable processes. You need to get documents from somebody. You have the ability to create document requests. You also have the ability to template these requests. So clicking into it from an employee, I can see that we already have an existing project that's been created. I click into a request item here that has 2 line items. Each of these line items can be assigned to an individual, can have its own due date, and the client will have their own experience of providing them a notification of when it's due, letting them know that there is a file that's being requested for them to upload, and also providing them the ability to comment. So document request lists are very straightforward. I'll go through the project creation, but I just wanted to walk through the kind of out of the oven features. The next component within a project is information request. So information requests are great, just like collecting documents and data. We may need to ask questions and assign questions to our customers. We have form building within projects, so you can create these questionnaires yourself. And it does also contain conditional logic. So depending on some of these category options, you can also customize what fields will display next. So we'll see what that looks like as someone's filling it out. Um, we can create these one-off. Again, we can pull these from a template so you guys can save and have predictable workflows. Any file that's attached or added now, as we can see, I had a document request here called client NDA. This files tab is effectively just consolidating any file that is a part of this project. This does have export capabilities. We want to move it into this folder section, but there are some ways to understand that this is basically just a hierarchy of moving me into a logical folder of each document request. So as my client is adding files, I'll be able to see the files, co-edit the files from here like we saw, download, create files. So there's a lot of capability. Any comment that we have, and then we also have table building. So if I want to provide tasks, track progress, that you can also create just one-off kind of blank data tables to tabulate, specific data sets. Again, this has its own use depending on what your team's flow is. These are just the starting components of what we've provided, and the very last one are tasks. So if I'm creating these projects and I'm a team of employees, maybe there's a specific set of tasks that I need to be generated to keep me in the know of what I have to understand to get this workflow going. So we have the capability of assigning tasks, clicking in, completing, having due dates. Again, our system will take care of the notifications of alerting someone if something is due when it's not done. We do have some other options here. So that's more of an how it looks. Let's talk about how they get created real quick. Again, this is that entire document workflow cycle. This is organizing, this is collaborating, this is going through a lot of that. So if I were to start as a user, I can go into projects as a licensed user. Now I can go and create this from a template like I said. So my company can create these templates that we just saw that can contain a series of document requests, information requests. I can call for that. And what it's doing behind the scenes now is it's just creating a blank project. It's now creating those document request lists as blank document requests, information requests. And what it's going to expect me to do after that's done is share it, assign it to who I'm working with. So as we can see, it created this project here now. I haven't done anything with it yet, but it's the same visual of what we were just looking at. Now I have the ability to edit any of the information from it. I have the ability to share this root level project out. Now, something to keep in mind is that I can share out this root level project, but I can also have these individual items that can be one-off tasks. Now, keep in mind, each person will have to be shared the project, but we can focus on defining if someone can only do specific actions in requests, so on and so forth. So you'll see if I'm adding or sharing this out with someone that we do have a set of permissions that you can customize that allow you to jump into literally each of those columns and pick and choose. So you do have a lot of control over this project lifecycle and who's touching it. Another feature that's great is creating an activity report. So if you want to understand clicks that are happening, that I can generate a report here, and it will just create a file that I can review to understand what's happening within the project itself. So very easy to create. I also have the ability, like I said, if I want to come in here and just do a blank request, this would be, okay, this is a new item with a couple, listed things that I need from a customer. I need it within a week. I can create it here. I can import. So this will basically just be, hey, I have a file with a list of names and descriptions of documents. So let's say in that case, I have a document with that, or you guys just want to create items as like one-off. Either way, I could recall a list here. This is just a template that we provide. Again, it's just two columns. One of them is a title of a file. The next one is a description. So I have a sample one here, and basically it's just importing 3 line items for a document request that I can then share. So just like I had a template, I can also add one-off type requests and save these or resave these as templates as well. So a lot of flexibility here from a project standpoint. Now, jumping over to the client side, what a client sees. Now, this is also a huge part. I'm now looking at a client perspective. There is going to be a new portal experience for what a client will see, as this new iteration is more task focused, as we call them projects. There's going to be a life cycle of maybe it's annual or recurring provide by client information that you need or questionnaires that you need to gather. As a client, I can come in, I can look at folders that have been shared with me still, but I can also look at these items that have been assigned to me. So I've been assigned a questionnaire. Here's all those questions that I need to fill out. Here's that conditional logic. So all this information is here. I can submit it, I can complete it. I can click into these line items that have been assigned to me. I can drag and drop. So this is similar to any feature within ShareFile for uploading files in bulk or one at a time. It adheres to the same, capabilities of what it's providing. So I can upload these files, submit them for review. As a client, I can also click into an item if I have questions. I can reassign this to someone else from my team, which will create them as a client. I can see who is responsible for this, but I can also add chat messages. So instead of having to call, instead of having to figure out what I need to do next, me as a client, I can talk within this portal. Hopping back over to the employee side, they would receive an email notification, but for the sake of time, I'll just jump into the project and we'll see when I'm here that there is a notification box here. So it's directing me to this line item. I can review the comment, I can respond back. So really great all-encompassing feature from, diving more into that document workflow. Now there is one component within this project that is the first step of one of our AI features as well. So I just wanted to highlight that because I will be transitioning to a structure of workflows, but also AI features to enhance processes. So everyone's familiar with Bard or Chat GPT, being able to have the ability of just spitting out an idea and having it provide you something a little more professional. So with document requests, we do have an AI generate a request list feature. So it is a beta feature. If you are on premium, as you see, when I'm creating a document request list, I created one from scratch. I drew one in from a template, but I can also create one with AI. So in this case, I can choose an industry of where we are. I can choose a role that I have, and I can put some wording in here. This is not obviously a useful one. But as you imagine, it will take your information and contextually provide you something. So obviously I didn't do good enough, but as you can imagine, it's going to create you a provide by client list of items. So that's really one of the first steps is the document request list generation. So this is generative AI that we're leveraging on top of our infrastructure for ShareFile, and a first step within our project kind of automation feature. As an admin, you can go into admin settings, advanced preferences, AI settings. So if you do have these capabilities as an admin, here's where, if I'm on premium, I can enable or disable these features. So if we did not want to see that Gen AI feature as people are interacting with projects, I can disable and turn this off. Another really cool feature is document summarization. So it's another one where you're able to review the content of a document and have it tell me what and summarizes within that. So you guys may have seen when John was within a folder that there are some capabilities here. I can go into this engagement letter we have summarized with AI. Basically what it's doing is it's reading the contents. We do have some documentation if you guys want to understand, we're not storing, it's more reviewing just the content. So if you guys have questions as you're adopting AI, reach out to us and we can definitely get you with the right team and the right content to address our footprint with AI and how we're able to provide this to you. So the other feature that we had, as you guys saw, was Share Recommender. So this is specific to PII, PHI content. This feature is suggesting sharing. So this is more of a suggestive feature. If I'm creating a share link with somebody, and it will be able to scan the document and understand if it contains a form of PII, that it will recommend a more secure sharing options. So maybe if someone's trying to share something without login required or without a retention date applied, and it understands that there's PII that'll recommend to this user to do it this way. Now, we don't have a console or mechanism yet to completely prevent that share. It's more so just doing a recommendation. But these are those starting points within our AI footprint where there will be some better capabilities that'll be coming down the line in the future. But either way, just a good thing to note there as you guys are looking through it. Now, one thing I did want to point out as another premium feature are electronic signatures. So if you're using contract workflows, one-off signatures, bulk signatures, we have the capability, even for files that are stored in ShareFile, you may have seen too, that signature will be built in to these to the tool itself. So if you have files, folders that you are also have a workflow of an electronic signature as a part of it, with this license, it's built in, it's provided each license user can have electronic signatures applied. And if anyone's familiar with, placing fields, bulk signing or signer sequencing, we have all of those features within. So something else to take a look at. There isn't a ton there, obviously, to understand if you've used electronic signature, if you have a need for electronic signature, it's a really great feature, again, that's built into the ShareFile application. This comes off that backbone of Write Signature if you came from using that tool in the past, but just another good thing to mention. Templates are great within that project scope. Obviously, it's now considering that document workflow where there's more steps, more process, more things to be mindful of with what your employees are doing. So you can transform not just basic file sharing. Great things to look at. Go and understand, what are our end users doing with ShareFile? Could they benefit from some of these other tools, some of these other apps that we have? Is there anything else that we can do to save time?
There was a lot of things that we went over today, but as Evan and I feel, these are just things to be aware of, and things to kind of look forward to. As we develop more of these features, especially like AI and different workflows, those things are something to consider. And just be aware that most of them can be toggled off, just as Evan showed you with the AI stuff. So you can always be aware of that if that is something you don't want to jump right into head first in terms of the AI stuff. So appreciate your time. We'll see you on the next one.